Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we'll be taking another look through 80 or so pre-war vintage Penguin paperbacks from my collection as we slowly work our way through. And these are all sort of from 1943, 1944. So extremely vintage, very, very scarce wartime issues. And that's what we're going to be having a look at today. So sit back, relax, and let's take a look. Okay then, so we're starting off with this one. 384 in the Penguin main series, William Cook antique dealer, and like all these wartime crime ones, these are actually some of the most expensive paperbacks in my collection because they are so very, very scarce and also really collectible. So this is actually August 1942, this particular one. It's a little bit earlier than I thought, but these are all, the whole lot are all wartime issues, and there's some very, very scarce books in here today. Super brittle, some of them, and they're printed on very thin wartime paper, as you can see, but hopefully I'm treating these nice and carefully. They shouldn't have too many sort of marks or anomalies on them, but because I'm going through every single book in my collection, I don't want to miss any out. So even though these may not need that much work, at least some of them, I want to at least go through every single book. This one's quite a scarce one, On the Night of the Fire. Fairly tough to find in nice condition for an orange one. That's got spider web on the side there. Probably one I've had a bit longer than some of the other ones. I do count myself quite lucky in that some of these I was able to get, back in the day, like 20, 30 years ago, before they were really sort of collected like that. And I would always pick up any old penguins that I came across, which wasn't often, but occasionally. And some of them in the long term proved to be quite valuable. So I was very lucky. It says along the top there, wartime penguin. Well, we know it's wartime. I wonder where this one came from. But now, any rubbing out on these, this has to be done super carefully, because the pages are just so brittle. So I'm just sliding it along there. There we are, that's okay. And it's got that tear on the back, but I can't do anything about that. And these particular wartime ones, if I'm going to bag any of my paperback books, the ones between 1 and 500 are the ones that should be bagged up. The very most valuable ones, or thin and brittle ones, such as this one, have already been bagged. So I have bagged some of them, and this one has already been cleaned, so it's in as good a condition underneath or inside this bag as I'm going to be able to get it. But because it's so thin, I've already bagged it, so there's nothing to really do on that one. And a few of these have already been through the treatment because of their value, and or because of how fragile they are. But this was the next shelf to do in my Penguin collection. So this one's also bagged because it's so very, very thin and fragile. 391. I've already given that one the once over. The same with this one. This is an early Graham Greene. England Made Me. It's really nice. I think this one's quite scarce, It looks like the bottom of the spine has already been sort of glued in, because these are very, very susceptible. Carefully does it. This is quite a thin one, but it seems in reasonably robust condition. It's only 96 pages. This is 1944, so the numbering is jumping around just a little bit here. So we've got the Old Stag, Henry Williamson, 395. That one's just about okay. And it's got a little mark inside from the previous owner, and quite a telling mark at that. So it says 19th of December 78, duplicate. So someone had this one as a double. So back in 1978, someone was putting a little run of these together. Ever so delicate, these covers. There we are. So that one's okay. Now that we've taken that bit of pencil out. The Penguin Herodotus, Volume 2. Quite a scarce one. Another little crime one. Bamboo Blonde. Lovely. Friends and Relations. And to be honest, these are all really, really scarce books, but I've been lucky in that I picked them up over the years, and nowadays I'm only missing a handful of books from pre-500. I think it's like 6 I need now to finish them. And I've got 2 crossword books between 500 and 1,000 that I haven't got, but I've not. They're out there, but I just don't want to pay £25 for a crossword book, so I'm waiting to come across them at about £10 to £15, and I'll grab them. But the other earlier ones, they just seem very, very scarce, and I only find about one a year if I'm lucky, you know. This is number 400th main series Penguin. Portrait of England. So that's fine. So I'm going to just move these over to this side there and pull the camera back a little bit. H.E. Bates here. Country Life. These yellow covers are really distinctive. They stand out a mile. That's alright. This one's in a bag as well. This is already in a bag. Panic Party. This is a very expensive book, this one, so I'll leave this one in the bag for now. I don't particularly like that bit of bagging. I might get that rebagged at some point, but I've seen that go for ridiculous money, that particular one. Scandinavian Short Stories, 403. And so far we've not had anything too delicate to deal with, have we? With regards repairing. It's interesting, it's got a blank inside cover. That's unusual for penguins of this period. They usually have an advert of some sort on. So that may have been slightly later in the run, possibly. Passenger to Tehran. That's got a little name on the front there. And it looks like it's in pencil. So we'll give it a very delicate rub, see if it comes off. I think it is in pencil, you know. Yeah, so The actual name has come off quite easily, but the little line underneath is proven to be a little bit more stubborn. Yeah, that's got it. Now, what often happens is, because I've rubbed that name out, you can see like a little very light white circle where the rest of the cover now looks a little bit unnatural. So what you've got to do in these cases is do the area around it ever so slightly so it blends in and it doesn't stand out a mile. So that's what I'm doing here. And it's where fingers have naturally touched the cover as the book has been read. There we are. So now you couldn't really see where that name was because it's sort of been blended in. So it's got 405 inside. That's the number 405. And it looks like it's got a very faint £2. So I know that it's number 405, so I don't need that inside. And then see if I can very, very delicately scrape this price out. There we are. Got it. Okay. Next one is also bagged again, Patrician. So we're assuming that one's all been cleaned already. And the same for this one. So this is another rare crime one, but mine's got no back cover. So for the time being, I've already cleaned and bagged that as best I can. It's going to stay in its bag. Old Road from Spain. This is a nice condition one. Nice and flat. If only they were all in that lovely condition. It's a beauty, that one. Another supreme rarity, second shot. Nice copy of that, and that's in a bag already. The Island Man. Perhaps not the most collectible of titles, but still scarce. 1943 here now. This is sort of the height of the Blitz, really, isn't it? During the Second World War. That's why some of these are so very, very scarce. Another thin one that I've already bagged up. Ballads of Barnacle Bill. Love in Our Time. Yeah, the cover's just about held on this one. Steamboat Men. I think this is quite scarce. Fairly nice copy of that one. Here's a thinny, but he's not bagged up. Modern Irish Short Stories, 415. Lady of the Barge. And now this one's going to need this bottom of the spine re-gluing in a moment. Shouldn't be too difficult a job. Yeah, so just in there, I'm going to put a slither of glue. So the first bit of glue we've actually needed to do today, but it's worth doing because these are so very scarce these days. Apart from that, it's actually a really nice copy of this one, so. a little bit more in there. I think that should be enough now. Squeeze it together. There we are. Delicate little repair there, but worth doing, of course. South latitude. Now this is the first edition of this one. He's not in great shape, but it is at least all there. I mean, it's bagged up. And I have also got this one, which I believe must be the reprint. Still quite early, but it's thicker than the other one. So it makes me think it's a later pressing, 1946. So it's the late print. This one's from 1943. Once again, a tiny little bit of the spine to glue down the bottom there. Like so. Lovely. As I said, I've got a reprint there just because it's a nice early, sort of just post-war reprint, and it's quite a scarce old book as well. And here's another one which is quite scarce. So I've bagged him up. Here Lies by Dorothy Parker. It's quite a scarce one. And once again, I've got another copy of that, which that must be the first, and that's the reprint, because this one is 9p. So this is obviously a later printing of this one. Yeah. So this is the 1945, and I do that sometimes with a few of like wartime books. I have got more than one copy of them, just because if I ever fancy reading it, it's better to read the later one than the sort of the more fragile first edition. The Dark Forest here. Okay. A couple of Claudius books here. Claudius the God. That one's got a little date on the inside front cover, which is a really awkward place, but I'm going to gently rub it out. Got it. Such a tricky spot to put. Now I wonder if this has got it in the same spot. No, it hasn't, but it has got that Slime Spite Rub Good Plus. And anyone who knows, who's been collecting penguins a long time, would recognise the handwriting as legendary book dealer Brian Kesterton. Lovely, lovely chap. Sadly no longer with us, but when I was first starting to collect penguins, he was a real inspiration, and he used to do fantastic catalogues, and at the time I'd buy what I could afford. Missed a few bits and pieces off him over the years, but got to meet him once at one of the penguin shows in London. He was a really, really nice guy. I have saved all his old catalogues, which I will be doing a little video on those at some point. And this is Claudius the God, the one volume edition, which came out much, much later. They put both books into the one volume. And when was this published? 1954. There we are. So let's put these to one side and make a little bit more room. Okay, so 423. Put out more flags. This one's also in a bag, which means it's been cleaned. Sporting adventure, another scarce travel and adventure. Early Jane Austen, Northanger Abbey. Now this one's got a tiny bit of the spine that could use like a micro repair by the look of it. And it's got a little something inside. I don't know. It doesn't look like a price, but it's something. If you look at this spine, a tiny bit there is folded over. So I'm hoping I can just pop the smallest bit of glue because it is also where the penguin number is. There we are, that's managed to save it. So just pushed it back in. Lovely. It's interesting the number says A425 rather than normal 425. So for some reason they thought it was a pelican. Another Jane Austen here. Persuasion. And this was the very first time these Jane Austens were put into Penguin edition. So they themselves are quite sought after by the Jane Austen collectors. Sea Escapes and Adventures, Taffrail. Another scarce one here, which is in a bag for its own self-keeping. See, the cover is coming off that you can actually see. So when I edit this, I'll make a little note that that's one I need to get an upgrade on. Unfinished Clue. Another very, very scarce crime title, Georgette Hare. This one's also quite a nice, robust copy of this in a bag. So that's exactly how it's going to stay. The Mutiny of the Elsinore, Jack London, number 430. How's this one looking? Not too bad. Yeah, he's alright. 431, a Russian newsreel. And these really are so delicate. You can see how carefully I'm handling them. This one's bagged up again for 32, Galsworthy. Dark Flower. And something like that in Penguin paperback first is actually ridiculously worth more than the first edition hardback first, if you can believe it. Paper Houses. Well, this one's got an M inside in a circle. Bit unusual. So this is one of those scarce crossword books. This really should be in a bag, but it's not. Incredibly scarce. How many crossword books from 1943 do you own? I mean, stupidly, that's probably £200. That book is just ridiculous. Max Carados, another nice crimey. And these really should all be in bags now, so I'm going to have to pull my finger out and get myself a few hundred, I think. And I'll go through and bag these up. It would have been a good thing to do it at the same time, on all reflection, thinking about it, but there you go. Nice copy of the Nebula coat. This one they got the number wrong on the spine and they had to block it out. There you see. Nice copy of that one. Man's Man, Ian Hay. It's also backed up quite nicely. Then we got Guerrilla War in Abyssinia. What's that inside? Oh, look at this. We'll have a look at that in a second. Got 50p in, so we'll get that out. Like so. Now this is from Foyles. Look, it's a receipt. The world's greatest bookshop, Tottenham Court Road. Foyles for Books, 119 to 125 Charing Cross Road. Books bought. So it's just like a little receipt. No date on it. We should like you to come to Foyles for all your books. Well, Foyles are still going today, and I shall leave that one in there because it's absolutely lovely. A lovely little relic of the period. So the 6,000 Beards of Athos. This one's got a bit of, don't know, fluff, spider's web. I hope not. That's all right. That's number 440. This is quite a nice condition, early one into Madagascar, and that's lovely. So that one's that's already been bagged up to protect it. Now this is my delicate copy of Brighton Rock. Now I did recently re-glue the back to keep the back cover in place, and I'm very tempted to re-glue the front because look at it. So I recently filmed a grey and green video, and if you can believe it, I forgot to include England Made Me, which we saw earlier. Just goes to show, doesn't it? Because it was in this box. And I pulled out Brighton Rock, but I didn't pull out the other one. Thankfully, I did cover the book because we had a couple of other editions of it. So the Penguin wasn't that missed, but Brighton Rock is such a rare book, and this one's been on my list of ones to upgrade for ages. So eventually I'll come across one at a decent price. But even in this state, with the covers a little bit loose, I would expect this book to be like a £50 book. And I did see one copy, a first edition, and it was pretty hammered, and it sold on eBay for £199.99, which I think was massively overpriced, but evidently somebody really wanted it, maybe a Graham Greene fan. There is also a Rare Forces Book Club edition, but there's only sort of one copy known to exist of that one, as far as I know. At least I know one person who's got one, and that's like a £500-600 book, I think. Sadly, I've not got that one. There we are. She Was a Queen. This is one of those wartime ones, very thin, but turns up quite a bit. It's one of those odd ones like that. Times 4th leaders. Secret City. Dr. Darwin. So as we look through these, next week's is, I'm going to be filming next week's this week in actual fact, because I've got a road trip where I'm going to go and visit and film a massive collection of Pan books. Very much looking forward to that. So I need to have a couple of videos sort of ahead of myself, as it were, because I'm going to be away from the studio. So next week's, as you watch this, it's going to be a little bit of a mishmash. It's going to be some of the very smaller series that I've got, which I'll be pulling together. So it's going to be my 3 Investigator paperbacks. I've got some later Doctor Who books. I've got my photo novels. So it's going to be quite a mixture of stuff, but I think it'll be a fun video as well. So, those books are all much later than these. They're sort of like 70s, very late 60s and 70s upwards into the 80s. So that is what we'll be looking at next week, and maybe some horror books as well. Death in a White Tie. This is a nice one, a rare one, so it's already bagged up. Little £1.50 inside. So we'll grab that now. Phantom lobster. Well, can't say much about that. So it's got a little 50p in. Soon sorted that out. I seem to remember having that one for years. So 50p is probably what I paid for it. Penguin first, £2. I know some people, when they have a collection like this, they like to make a little recording of how much they paid for it and where they got it from. And you know, if I'd have been a bit more organised back in the day, I perhaps would have done something similar. But I get so many books from my hands, it would have been a bit of a task, in all honesty. But my mum collects Cornish kitchenware, which is this really nice blue and white banded china, and it is really, really gorgeous. And as she's put the collection together, she has recorded where she got each piece, whether it was from a shop or from an antique fair or somewhere like that, and how much she paid for it. And it's quite a nice little record, because when you come to sell it, which eventually, you know, all these things get moved on eventually, we're only ever caretakers of some of this stuff, aren't we? Hopefully she'll be able to sell it at a profit. Now the top of this book had just got dinged, so I've put a little blob of glue in, squish it back into place, and there you go. That's lovely. Got a last little pile here now. Now this next one's actually quite scarce. It's another George Orwell, and this isn't too bad a copy of this one, Burmese Days, so I'm quite happy with this. My favourite of his is Down and Out in Paris and London. If you've never read that one, that's the one I recommend above some of the more obvious ones like 1984 and Animal Farm. Just going to slide those over there to get this last little pile. First Thus, 1941, £4. It's got a little 90, 95 or something, and 98 in the top corner. We'll get rid of that bit first. And thankfully, because this price has been popped in by a book dealer, you know, however long ago this was, the pencil price is very, very light. So it doesn't take a massive amount of pressure to remove it. But when you go into somewhere like a charity shop, generally it's either a not very attractive sticker has been put in, or you put the price in pen, which is even more of an offence because you can't rub that out. Flowers for the judge. Yeah, that's got a very faint £10, which would have been, yeah, a good price for that. I mean, I think it goes for a little bit more than that these days, probably at least 50 for this one, I would imagine. Maybe a bit more on the right day, you know. The Iron Heel. Apologies on that. Conrad. Sounds like there's a crow in my garden. Does he not know I'm filming a video? How dare he? D.H. Lawrence, early one, travel one. These are okay, it's quite a nice run here. The Tanker Durban. VG, £3. The Russian campaigns, 41 to 43. Somerset Maugham, Moon and Sixpence. There we are, VG plus M. I wonder where that came from, because we had one earlier which had like an M in, didn't it? Still easily gone. It looks like a little £2 at the top of that as well. Also now gone. Tiny little bit of corner folded over there. You got it. The Hangman's Guest, Stuart Martin. Never Come Back. Beautiful copy of that one. Richard Yenay. A little bit grubby that, but it'll do. So it's the same, it's got a couple of turned over corners, particularly at the back here. These are probably turned over right back 80 years ago when the book was first sort of being read. There we are. He's all right. See on the fence. And then Cooley. Got a 20p in. Lovely. Okay, right, that's then rubbed out and repaired as best as possible. Next stage then is to give these a brush down. Right then, so we need to be fairly careful with these and a little bit delicate. because of their age. You don't want to go crazy. But some are a little bit more robust than others. But I'm going to pull them all out in little pinches. They are all in order. So even if they're bagged, I'm going to keep them in the same situation, same spot in the racks here. And we shall get these all brushed down. As you can imagine, some of these are being treated with kid gloves. Okay. Now, one thing I will be doing quite soon is I've got quite a lot of my Penguin book collection sort of displaced at the moment as I pulled various books out from their main run, like the Simonons and the Graham Greens and that. So I'm going to be having a little shunting session. I've made a bit more room because I've picked up a few new additions to my Penguin collection as well. And I'm going to be filming a video where I show them all being sort of put back into the main collection again numerically. So if you fancy that, I'm going to be filming that one again this week, and look out for that one on my other channel. Okay, so but yeah, sadly no polish today. Can't polish these books, they are too delicate. Lovely. Rejig the piles a little. Quite a bit came off that little knot, that was good. Lovely. Well, as we come up to the very last bit, thank you very much for watching today. I have certainly enjoyed going through these, albeit gingerly, these very scarce wartime penguin titles. If you've enjoyed it, do please hit the like button, leave a little comment below if you've enjoyed it, and I'll be seeing you again in another week's time. Bye.